Hell's Kitchen, if you grew up in, we didn't call it Hell's Kitchen, we called it 10th Avenue, we called it the neighborhood, we called it the West Side. What I learned growing up here is that life kicks the shit out of you every day. And the only question is, what are you going to do about it?
Let me ask you this. When you were, we'll start, which is we're talking about the parking spot. When you were a little kid, 1962, how many cars would be on an average block?
I got to tell you something. I'll give you a story, and you're not going to believe it, but it's 1,000% true. First of all, it's 10th Avenue and 45th. We really were from 51st Street and 10th Avenue.
Right.
On a Sunday afternoon, 10th Avenue, 50th, 10th Avenue, 51st, all the guys, mothers, fathers, bring out all the beer and shit, and we put garbage cans on 50th so nobody could go through the block so we could play the stickball game.
Nobody could drive.
Nobody could drive through, and so they got to the street and they see all these garbage cans, and the guy just went that way, up 10. And nobody ever got out to say, hey, I gotta go this way.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So that's how many cars there were. There was nothing.
And so here's 10th Avenue, right? So 10th Avenue, just if you can think back to when you were a little kid, you're walking on 10th Avenue, right? 747, none of those buildings, that building wasn't there, right?
No, of course not.
So you're walking here. Do you remember any of the stores here?
Sure. Well, first of all, where that tower is that you just mentioned, that was the PAL.
Oh, that was the PAL.
That was the PAL.
Wow.
This block here, 45th Street, that was Mike Spillane's bar.
Right.
Everybody hung out there, mothers, fathers, kids, everybody. It was called the White House.
The White House. Scruffy Duffy's was the White House,
it was
right
the White
there.
House.
Got it.
And we didn't come down, I mean, it was really such a small neighborhood, Colin.
Right.
We didn't, when we were from 51st Street, we went to 50th, we went to 49th. 48th is when the Puerto Ricans started moving in. So 48th, 9th, and 10th, we didn't go into 47th.
Yeah.
Started up with us again. So we went down to 47th and maybe 46th Street. And here's why that was a dividing line. Sacred Heart on 51st and 10th.
Yeah.
That's where all of us went to school.
Right.
But after 46th Street, everybody went to Holy Cross.
Right.
So the people, Holy Cross people usually stayed down here. The furthest up they went was 47th. Sacred Heart, the furthest down we went was 47th. Then every once in a while we got together on 47 and kicked the shit out of us. Each other.
That's hilarious.
And my wife was from 47th, so we actually met on 47th and had a fight that day. I had a fight with my brother John. That's how my wife met me, yeah.
And she saw you fight?
She
goes, I like this guy's style.
Here's what happened. Barbara saw us fighting,
yeah.
And Barbara said to her friend, I think Marici, these guys are killing each other. Who are they? Marici said, don't break it up. It's the Moresco brothers. Leave them alone. My brother John.
And I remember you telling me a long time ago, when you were a kid, you had a fight, maybe it was a couple of fights, but all the parents would come and set out chairs in the street.
Actually, it was only one fight.
Right.
And it wasn't really chairs. Here's what happened. I was just talking about, maybe I was 13, maybe 14,
Yeah.
And we were still having the fights with the Puerto Ricans then.
Yeah.
Drugs, marijuana had not come into
And
the
that was West Side Story, the end of West Side Story. It was already out, but you guys, it was inspired by here.
That's exactly right. Deaver Clinton Park, 56th Park on 52nd, 11th.
Right.
That was the park that we always hung out at. And then the Puerto Ricans would try to come down and hang out there as well.
Sure.
And that's where, when you see the park in West Side Story, it was Deaver Clinton Park.
Right.
And that's what, so one night.
And under the highway was still there.
Yeah, the highway was still there. So one night, they come down, and there's like 10 of them, maybe there's 10 of us. And we're gonna have a riot, and then somebody says, well, why don't we just fight one-on-one? You're a tough guy against our tough guy. Actually, that happened in West Side Story.
That's right.
So it was on 52nd and 11th. So my friend Kevin Raleigh, I think, said, okay, Bobby, you're gonna fight, who's your guy? So I think it was Kevin Raleigh. So we go up to
were you like, all right.
So we go up to the parking lot next to Muncho's, which was one of the Puerto Rican bodegas. By the way, bodegas nobody ever heard of, but I think Muncho's was like there forever. So he was like a friend. But for some reason, we wound up in that parking lot,
Yeah.
52nd and 51st, between 10 and 11, next to Muncho's.
Yeah.
And all the Puerto Ricans with cars and other people with cars came in and they shined the lights on the parking lot, and me and this guy fought. Everybody's around and the lights from the cars were all
On what
shining.
street?
It's 51st and 52nd between 10th and 11th.
Wow.
If anybody's from this neighborhood back then, just say, hey, you remember Muncho's? And then
Yeah.
Muncho's was probably relatives. I never even thought of this. You know Edgar, Little Edgar and Big Edgar?
No.
Yeah, you do. You met Little Edgar once. You, basketball player, little guy.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He told you that story?
Yes.
Well, Edgar, I think, was related, Big Edgar.
Yeah.
Edgar said, yeah, he said, I was playing basketball, some guy hit me. I thought I was punched by Bobby Moresco. So this is like 47th Street. I just told you, it was kind of the dividing line. Holy Cross was south of this, Sacred Heart was north of this. And this wasn't a park or anything back then.
It wasn't?
No, I think it's maybe 1970 it came back in, but it wasn't anything like this.
Right.
And my wife Barbara, right down the street, I told you she lives on 47th. That's how we met her up here. Go ahead. What?
And so, like, all these stores here, you had, like, do you remember any of them? Candy store, hardware store, television repair, all that stuff.
First of all, I lived there, right across the street.
You did?
Yeah, right above Cedar West Market. I lived directly to the right of that.
Wow.
For about 6 months. My mother and father were constantly on the move because there were so many of us. We could never find the right apartment to live in.
Right.
That laundromat wasn't there. That was a bodega too, I think. The pizza shop, the butcher shop.
Make me famous. Make me famous.
You're
I know.
already famous.
You guys make me famous.
You're already famous.
Come on. How you guys been?
The local.
I know you for many years. I seen you on TV, and every time I see you, I watch you.
Thank you.
I seen you, I think, in Saturday Night Live.
Yes, I used to be on there 100 years ago. Thank you.
See you. I'm happy that you're doing well.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tony's, the butcher shop, was right there on the left on the Anejo.
Oh.
Yeah, and then there was a couple of butcher shops. There was always candy stores on all of these.
Yeah.
Every one of these streets pretty much had a candy store. Now, you get up to 48th Street, that bar right there with the green awning,
Yes.
that was a bar called Eddie's, Fast Eddie's, and everybody went in there on a Sunday afternoon. And
Was that the place where Bruce Willis worked?
no, I'm going to show you where Bruce Willis worked. Bruce Willis, you can look this up. I lived up 457 West 49th Street when I went to printing school. When I moved out, Bruce Willis moved in.
Your apartment?
Yeah.
What?
I will show you the building.
Oh my God.
And I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard he still owns it. Imagine that, all that time. I moved out in like 1972, 71, right after I got, maybe 73, right after I got married.
Wow.
So you saw the play last night. My friend Dennis, who the play's about, lived right up here.
Right on this block, huh?
Yeah, he was, you know the whole story, but
Sure.
that's where Dennis
It was
lived.
behind your building, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I'm bartending in here one night.
Yeah.
Funniest story ever. I worked in Eddie's with a guy named Drago, and Mike Spillane owned this bar too at the time, but the bar was constantly changing hands. So there's a big fight, me and Drago behind the bar, my wife's here, all her friends. Next thing you know, there's a fight between these two guys, and one guy takes out a gun, shoots the other guy. The other guy falls down. People start running around. The gun is being kicked around the floor. Now, I'm the bartender. When you're the bartender, you got to try to fix things. So I'm trying to, I don't want anybody to get shot again. So I pick up the gun. I run through the crowd. I run out here, and you see that sewer?
Yeah.
I drop the gun down the sewer. So now I go back in, and like everybody's running out. Nobody wants to be in it. There's like an old drunk at the end of the bar, me and the other bartender. The cops walk in. One guy steps over the body, says to me, the bartender, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know. The guy walked in, fell on the floor." The cop, the greatest response ever. You can't make this up. Cop says to me, "Get your coat." That's what it was like back then.
Oh my God. It was It was like, so these streets were filled, like all those old buildings too.
Tenements. My
Filled
grandma,
with people just hanging out.
My grandmother on my father's side lived right there. My first apartment with Barbara after we got married was right here. I'll show you. I lived around the corner when I still lived with my mom. 696 10th Avenue. Where's 696?
Now these are wide sidewalks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chairs out here.
Everybody.
Did you guys play box ball and stuff when you're little?
We played box ball, we played punch ball, we played everything.
Yeah.
Played everything.
Yeah.
You know, and we were constantly.
Because everybody's sitting outside, because look how wide the sidewalk, yeah.
There were parents sitting outside, but all of the windows had women in them.
Yep.
You couldn't do it. They, you know, like the surveillance today?
Yeah.
The women all looked, and if somebody did something next day, they're on the phone, hey, you know what Bobby just did?
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I'll tell you, remember to tell you the bus story with my mother.
Oh, yeah.
So where's 696? Here it is.
Yep.
When I got married to Barbara,
This was it.
We moved into this building.
This was it, huh?
Yeah, we were on the 3rd floor, and Barbara wanted privacy. She didn't want to be around anybody. She wanted our lives to be our own.
Yeah.
We're not in here 2 months. My grandmother moves above me, and my niece moves below me. So now we got people above us. Barbara says, "I want out."
And where'd you guys go?
We finally got down in Clinton Towers. We got a.
Oh yeah, you were down.
Yeah, that was our first apartment in Clinton Towers.
And did 747 and Clinton both start at the same time?
No, 747 10th Avenue came after Clinton Towers.
Oh, it did.
Well, wait, no, it came right. Yeah, I think it was. I can't believe which one. It was not long apart.
Right.
But I think everybody was trying to get into. Here's what happened.
And was this your block?
This is my block, 457. I'll show you.
Let's just.
Well, this is an interesting block. But Colin,
Yeah.
this here, 747 10th Avenue. Everybody wanted to get in. It was being built, and my wife. I just told you how private she was. Barbara said, "We're not going here. We're going down to 11th Avenue where nobody wants to live." So we don't even apply for this. We apply for 11th Avenue.
Yes.
Don't you know 11th Avenue goes up, everybody loves it, everybody moved down 11th Avenue. Barbara said, "I want out."
She couldn't escape
She couldn't escape.
her life destiny.
So this is an interesting block.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. So there's 457 West 49th. See where the air conditioning is?
Yeah.
That was my apartment where me and my whole family lived. My mother, my father.
Right there.
All my brothers
457.
were still alive. My sister wasn't alive yet, but all the brothers.
Right.
And when I went to high school, you want to know where my high school was? Right there.
It was
Colin,
printing, right?
I kid you not, I was late. First of all, I never went, but when I did go, I was always late. I live here. But what's interesting about this block,
Yeah.
come on over here. One of the bosses on the dock, and a good guy, was a guy named Keefe. He lived there. A lot of other people lived here. Everybody knew everybody.
Right.
I lived there. But you know who lived right here? 456?
Who?
The Secretary of Labor under the United States of America under Richard Nixon.
Tell them how that happened. It was the hard hat riots.
Huh?
It was because of the hard hat riots.
That's exactly right. And Nixon loved him, and he made him. Well, also, let's face it, he's from my neighborhood. You really think Nixon wasn't crooked? You know, I don't say. Listen, we all love Brennan. We all got jobs. I was working with his son Terry. Terry's a construction worker next to me with tying slab. His father's the Secretary of Labor of the United States. I would look out my window on Monday morning. Right here would be the limousine. Brandon would get in a limousine to go back to Washington, and the kids would all be here on West Side with us.
And what was his job before that? He was the head of
No, he was head of the Building Trades Council.
Building Trades.
Yeah.
How funny is that? You're working next to his son. He's down in Washington.
I'm working.
He's sitting there with. He's sitting next to Henry
What are you
Kissinger.
doing here, Terry? So you think my father wants to give me a job in Washington? So here's where the Secretary of Labor lived, but here's where it gets interesting. Come on up this way a little bit.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Because it's while he's Secretary of Labor, the limo's pulling up.
Exactly. So right over here was the Democratic Club.
Is that behind you? Yeah.
The McManus Democratic Club was the.
Oh, it was over here, yeah.
The seat of power, Democratic power, and then it moved, but for a while it was right here. And here's the best. I told you I lived there. I told you Secretary of Labor. Right here was where Jimmy and Jackie Coonan grew up.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. Not the awning, but the other one. And then up the block, you see where those lights are up there, which is now a restaurant?
Yeah.
That's where Joey Mullen, Kenny Mullen, Brian Mullen,
Well, explain, because I don't think people know the Mullins as well as they did.
Well, before I tell you who the Mullins brothers are, come on up here.
And what was this store?
This is where the Democratic Club was.
Right there?
There or here to the right. I forget which one it was. So anyway, there was a guy named Joe Horvath and Tommy Horvath who were really like saints. They ran the hockey league. They made sure he brought me and a lot of other people to our first Broadway play. He'd get people to give us tickets to take the kids from the West Side up to watch plays. That's how I started getting into theater with Joe.
Yeah.
But Joe also and Tommy ran the hockey league.
Where?
And the hockey league was like 9 a.m. Roller hockey.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, we'd all be out drunk, you know. Half the time, you come home, maybe I'm 14, 15. You want to get home in time to get up for the 10 o'clock game if you had the 10 o'clock game. It was 10 o'clock, 12, and 2, I think, were the games.
Yeah.
So I'd come walking down here drunk to get up for the hockey game tomorrow, the roller hockey. And in there was where the games were played.
Yeah.
And always, Saturday night, Friday night, it doesn't matter. Joey Mullen, Brian Mullen, Tommy Mullen, they were all in here playing hockey. That's all they did, day and night. They lived right there. There was a parking lot between one of these buildings with red awning is.
Yeah.
So here's where the hockey games were. Now here's the story I'm going to tell you. Those guys I just mentioned to you, Brian Mullen, Joey Mullen, Kenny Mullen is what I went to school with. Joey became the highest scoring American ever to play in the NHL. He is now a Hall of Famer, won 2 or 3 Stanley Cups. He learned to play hockey right there.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Crazy.
It's
They
crazy.
didn't even play on ice till they were probably teenagers.
No, maybe 12. What happened was Tommy Horvath started getting Skyrink to donate ice.
Right.
And then sometimes we went out to West New York. Tommy and Joe would arrange some bus trips to get everybody out there.
Yeah,
And
West New
somehow
York is in Jersey, right over there.
Yeah, and Emil Francis, who was the head of the Rangers. Tommy was the Ranger stick boy.
I remember Emil Francis. Yeah.
Yeah, Emil Francis, he got Emil Francis to start donating stuff to get ice time for the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, changed lives, just changed
Crazy.
lives. And of course, this is my school.
Yeah, printing, huh?
For the 6 months I went here, it was a great time.
Yeah.
But on this one block, Hall of Fame hockey players, Academy Award winner,
Right.
Secretary of Labor of the United States.
Yeah.
And people can look up Jimmy and Jackie Coonan.
Yeah.
And then the Democratic Club.
And a Democrat.
All on this one block. History was made on this block.
It's crazy when you think about it.
Anyway.
Now, let me ask you this. When you're like, let's say 14, 15, right? Is this the block, by the way, they cut off?
No, it was on 10th Avenue.
On 10th Avenue.
We didn't play stickball here. We played right
They
on 10th
cut off garbage cans on 10th Avenue.
On 10th Avenue on a Sunday afternoon. And the people would be riding up from a Lincoln Tunnel or whatever, and the guys would be going that way.
And by the way, yeah, it was crazy. Like it was.
It was nuts. It was nuts. And then all that changed around 65, I guess.
Yeah.
We started playing stickball in the side streets,
Right.
you know.
And was there cars on the side streets or not?
It was never,
Like the neighborhood it probably was so gradual to you, the deterioration, that your years of growing up, you probably didn't notice it as much as the older adults would.
first of all, we thought it was paradise, man.
Right.
And it was. We had everything.
Right.
We had jobs, we had school, we had each other, we had Broadway, my father had the docks. We thought the whole world, this was the center of the world.
But it was the center of the
It
world.
was the center of the world.
So did you guys get local one? Like, was local one, was you guys then?
All the unions were my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you couldn't get a job as an usher or an usherette or a ticket taker unless you were from the neighborhood.
Right.
My wife went to a job when she was 22 down in Wall Street, and people thought she was nuts. Why would you leave the neighborhood for a job? We got plenty of jobs.
Yeah.
It was crazy the way we were so insulated. So we thought, and still think, those of us who grew up there, it was paradise. We had everything.
And the Teamsters, 817, but the Teamsters, did that start as horse and buggy? Is that why that's the...
Well, first of all, yes. Yeah, that's where the name Teamster comes from. What the theatrical Teamsters, what happened was the television days blew up, and it was all in New York. And so when they started making more television
That's like
shows,
the 50s.
50s and 60s, they realized they needed Teamsters.
Sure.
And so this guy, Tommy O'Donnell, opened up a little union hall on 41st and 9th Avenue. And where did he get all his Teamsters?
From your neighborhood.
Everybody he knew, their sons, them, their nephews, everybody became a Teamster. My brother John, my brother-in-law Leo, all my other brothers, everybody became Teamsters.
Yeah.
And so that was just normal to us.
And did you guys all go to, you know, Columbus Circle like all the other jobs over there? Did you know all those guys?
Are you kidding me? Every union in New York. Listen, how about this? If you really want to know, my uncle was the hiring boss. His son was the second hiring boss. His other son ran a construction business. There was, you know, anybody who felt like working got a job immediately, and you had to do nothing to get the job. Yeah. And for me, because I was so hooked up, I didn't even have to show up. My other friends would get mad at me. So we're breaking up balls every day. We see you walking the job at 10 o'clock, going home at 1 o'clock.
Right.
You're related to the wrong people, buddy.
Yeah.
You know?
And you worked Javits Center. A lot of people work Javits too.
Well, first
because Javits took the place of
the Coliseum. The Javits Center. My uncle went down with his son John and became the bosses down at the Javits Center. Yeah. And then there was a whole thing.
Of course.
Know, the Italians moved in, and Gotti went to prison. Right. People in this neighborhood lost some power.
And a lot of people moved. Did you feel like sad from like 1963? Did you feel sad like how many people moved?
I tell you when I got sad. My friend Tommy McEwen in the 7th grade, maybe the 8th grade it was, my closest friend, he moved to Jersey, and I almost cried. I thought, why would he move to Jersey? Here we are on the west side, we have everything. Yeah. His father saw what was coming. I didn't know that. And then more and more people started moving to Jersey. They started moving where my sister now lives, up in the Palisades, Rockland County.
And do you think it was heroin? But I mean, the whole country was like that.
Bobby Moresco, oh my God.
Yeah, Colin Quinn.
How you doing?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we're doing a little TV thing here. How you doing, pal? Just talking about the old neighborhood. When did you realize people started moving out of the neighborhood?
Oh my God, I'm the only one left. I'm the only guy left in the neighborhood.
But when would you say it first started happening? I was in the 7th or 8th grade. I said it was around 63, 64.
Well, I don't go back that far. Huh?
Yeah, but you were younger.
Yeah, you my Jude was my best friend.
Yeah, my brother Jude. Yeah. And Jude was my youngest brother.
2 years, me and his brother Jude, we did everything together. 2 years, best friends.
You tired? You're retired or you still
working?
No,
I'm still working, yeah.
It's good to see you, Jim.
See you later.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you could not walk a block without seeing 20 people. Hey,
Right.
Bobby,
Right.
what's your mother doing? Tell your mother I wanted to call me.
Right.
Every single stoop had people outside or in the window.
But here's what's funny. So there's a lot of neighborhoods that would describe that part. But this neighborhood, the next you walk 80 feet, you're in the middle of Broadway and Times Square.
I know.
That's what makes it so distinctive,
it's so
right?
Crazy. When I talk about the neighborhood, I said it was so nuts. My father had the docks, and he'd come home with stuff every night that just sort of fell off the truck, or in this case, the boat.
Right.
And then we all worked as ushers and usherettes on Broadway, and we were right in the middle of all of it. And I was.
And Times Square. So like Times Square,
the center of the world,
but Times Square at that point was the horror of the world because Taxi Driver was so realistic from Times Square from like 1966 to 1986. It was a nightmare. Yeah, so you were right there.
We never went to Times Square.
No, but you were right there at the
theaters. Yeah, well, we went to Times Square for the cheap movies.
Right.
All the movies on 42nd Street, we go up to one roof and we could get into every movie. Yeah. We go through this one, just go through, sit downstairs, sit in the balcony. We never paid for a movie.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, let's walk back down this way.
All right.
But this is some block, 49th.
Oh my God, crazy.
For the longest time, I tried to write a television show about 49th Street.
I know.
Because there's so much stuff here.
But there's so much stuff here, but also what makes it different from every place to even another degree is what's all surrounding it.
Yeah, listen.
It's crazy.
When I first became a Teamster, I guess I was about 14 or 15. This is a true story. Not a Teamster, a ticket taker.
Right.
So Hal Prince is doing Candide.
Right.
I'm an usher, and Hal Prince has this brilliant idea. He's going to take all of the ushers, he's going to redo the entire theater for the production. It's a world famous production, you can look it up. And he's going to make them, all the ushers, not all the ushers, 5 ushers I think it was, a part of the show. And don't you know, He interviews all of them and he picks me. I'm now in a Broadway play every night. I'm making my ticket taker money and I'm getting like $30 a night to be in the play. But
what are you doing in there?
I would just stand there and the people would come over. This guy named Mark.
And you're in a Broadway play at
and
14.
I'm in a Broadway play.
And then you're coming back here to the neighbor. That's what I'm saying.
I
The
didn't
thing,
say,
they contradict, whatever, you know,
I
wild.
didn't say any difference. I didn't see it. All I know is
No.
I'm getting extra 20 a night.
Yeah.
Extra 20 a night. And look at this. I'm getting
You're
extra
sitting
money.
on a Broadway stage.
It's getting on a Broadway stage. But when Hal Prince interviewed me, I thought, this is interesting stuff here, maybe. And the only thing that changed for me is I thought, maybe I'd like to try this stuff out.
You
there.
liked it, huh?
Yeah. And then I started out and hanging out in a place called Jimmy Ray's.
Oh, I remember Jimmy Ray's.
Yeah.
I was there.
And Jimmy Ray's was really interesting because all of the guys in the neighborhood, me and all my friends,
Yeah.
would go into the bar and Al Pacino would be there and this is all the actors and Roscoe Lee Brown, who I became great friends with.
Right.
And they loved mingling with us because we were authentic. We were
Right.
real New Yorkers.
Right.
And we were playing New Yorkers.
That's right.
You know, so
That's so funny.
and because of that bar, I met a guy who said, you should be an actor.
Yeah.
And he hooked me up with an acting teacher, and it turned out to be like the greatest acting teacher in New York.
Oh, Wynn Handman?
Wynn Handman. And he called Wynn, and that's how I started acting, but hanging out in Jimmy Ray's and getting that job in Candide.
That's really funny.
Isn't that great?
And you just started going to all the plays?
And by the way, back in the day, you don't pay for tickets.
Yeah, and you go to
You're
shows.
from there, you just walk in. You know, it doesn't matter.
Crazy.
You know, that's why there was at one point after I started studying with Wynn, I walked along from 51st down to like 42nd, and I had seen every single play on Broadway.
Crazy.
Isn't that
What
nuts?
year was that?
70, 69, I was 18.
So let's figure Cabaret.
Cabaret was
Probably-
the first one. That's interesting. Cabaret was the first play I saw.
Probably like, who knows, Absurd Person Singular.
Yeah. I can't. You
Yeah,
know,
those kind of plays.
I tell you one. I
Same
remember,
time next year.
The Homecoming with Michael. Who's the guy from Law and Order? He had won an Emmy that year. Michael, you know.
From Law and Order? Oh, Michael Moriarty.
Michael Moriarty.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I had seen every single play. Never paid a nickel.
That's so funny.
But how lucky was I?
I
All these
mean,
people all over-
amazing.
Yeah. You know, even to this day,
Yeah,
I had a friend of mine who's an Oscar-winning writer.
yeah.
And people have seen us together. Last year I saw him, he said, all the old ladies are still asking me if I know you. Yes, Tourette's.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I walk in, hey, you know Bobby Moresco, don't you?
Yeah.
They saw us on TV together. Even up until last year.
It's crazy.
Isn't that great?
It's wild.
He says, they're still there and they're still asking if I know you. Meanwhile, this guy's like got two, 3 Oscars. I'm his claim to fame.
You know what else I, you know what else I love?
This was a barbershop. This was a
This
great
was?
barbershop, yeah.
I love when you were talking about the, how you used to study voice. You'd go on the roof to try to get rid of the accent.
Constant. My father used to say, what's he doing? Tell my mother, what's he doing up there? what are these things, these exercises?
Yeah.
And then one night, I never told anybody. I was embarrassed. Nobody from this neighborhood became an actor.
Right,
you know?
right.
I'm still a kid. And one night I was doing a scene, and I needed plates and a knife and fork. So I take them with me. You know, my mother sees it. She knows what I'm doing. Barbara comes, look at me. We've gone out then. And my mother said, but Barbara said, where's Bobby? He said, I don't know. He left with plates and a knife and fork. He hasn't come back. But at the time, I stopped drinking, stopped
Right,
smoking, stopped
right.
hanging out with my friends.
Right.
And my wife Barbara was worried about me. And she said, listen, I'm tired of this. I want to know what you're doing. How come you never go out drinking with us anymore? and then I told her, and I swear to Christ, I said, Barbara, I'm studying to be an actress. She said, I hate actors. This is Barbara's response. I hate actors.
My wife.
You
Were
know,
you married then or no?
And then we got married.
Oh,
Well, I tell you what. Remember I just told you about the barber shop? It was right here.
yeah.
My wife will hate me for this. Barbara and I have been going out for
Yeah.
a while. And she said, I need you to meet me right away. I meet her right here, a little bit rainy day.
Yeah.
Barber shop's in there. And Barbara says to me, I got news. I said, great. She said, I'm pregnant. Yeah, I'm 18. I hear pregnant. And God bless my wife. I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, I don't know what you want to do. I'm having a baby. she didn't care what I was doing. I'm having a baby. What do you want to do? so we got married right away.
Oh,
Isn't
and
that
you
great,
get married.
though? I mean, my wife don't fool around. She makes a decision, and that's that. There's no, most people, there were things in the way, you know.
Right,
Barbara
right.
knows right away what's right and what's wrong. I go out and get drunk for 3 weeks to try to figure it out. She knows immediately.
And did you go to Sacred Heart?
Yeah, 51st Street.
And where'd you have the party?
My wedding bet,
Yeah.
we couldn't, because it was very quick, we couldn't get something in the neighborhood.
And this was famous. Did you bartend here too?
No, but I worked here when it was building it.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
No, I worked there, not this was 19.
Yeah, the bar in there, the restaurant.
No, but I worked a lot of bartending, but not there. When they were building this, I was like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And me and my friends were running in there one time. And we were playing tag or whatever. I go running and I go, whoa! And I'm caught on a nail.
Oh boy.
You see that there?
Yeah.
That happened there when I was 7. Isn't that wild?
Jesus Christ.
Isn't that crazy?
Wild.
And what happened with your mom at the bus stop? Did you tell that yet?
When we lived around the corner, 457 West 49,
Right.
she sent me out for bobby pins. I'm like, you know, one thing I always did, I always read, but I read comic books.
Right.
So anytime I went to the store, I glommed a comic book or I asked for money to buy a comic book. So I'm going home around the corner here and I'm reading, no, it was on 50th actually. I'm reading, I get hit by a bus. And I got my mother's bobby pins, right? And I get up and I run off, I grab the bobby pins, I run off and I give them to my mother and I go out. The phone rings like 20 minutes later. My mother's friend says, "Is Bobby okay?" My mother said, "Why? What happened?" He said, "He just got hit by a bus." My mother said, "No wonder my bobby pins were crushed."
And this block was, wait a minute, was the library? Oh, that's the next
I'm
block.
going to show you the library stoop. But there was no pizza shop or anything here. These are all buildings, all people lived here, all tenements. Over there, I told you, what street is this? 50th? Right there was the PAL.
That was it, huh?
That was the PAL. We all hung out in the PAL and then on the library stoop. It was all
So this was all packed with people.
everywhere, and we all knew each other. You couldn't walk 10 feet without having a conversation with somebody or a fight.
And so everybody, all the young kids hung out there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, well, here's what it was. There were 4 corners on 51st and 10th. I'll show you. This is where Bruce Willis was the bartender.
This was it, right?
Yeah.
What was it called? Roberts?
Back then,
I feel like it was
When he-
Roberts.
yeah, but I don't know if that's when he worked here. Anyway, it was called, when we were growing up, it was called the Sunbright.
Oh, this was somebody.
And then when he moved, it might have been called Druids when he got the job. Maybe. And I was telling you about Edgar. This was a place called Pat and Lou's. And then when drugs came in and all the Puerto Ricans and the white guys got together because everybody wanted marijuana, we all became friends.
Right.
And my friend Edgar bought this store from Pat and Lou's. And I swear to Christ, Pat and Lou's was here forever. My whole youth.
Yeah.
Nobody could tell Pat from Lou.
And was it a candy store?
No, it was a deli just like this. But, you know, he put everybody on account.
They put everyone on account?
Everybody on account. And so you come down and every once in a while the bill's not paid. My mother told me to get some. And Pat or Lou would say to me, "I can't, Bobby, I can't." You know, and I go home and tell my mother, he said, "I'm getting that prick on the phone." She called about. So this was when you talk about the center of the world, this was the center of the world. The library stoop. Here's this great, wonderful library. Nobody went in there but me. I mean, there might have been other people, but I used to spend a lot of time in here.
You did, yeah.
I don't know who. I never met one of my friends in here.
You love to read, yeah.
Yeah, I always loved to read.
And where would you guys hang out? Here?
No, there were steps. There were 5 steps.
Oh.
There were 5 steps going up to here, and here's where the door was. And we used to sit here and play cards all night long, drink beer. And one of the reasons they put the steps on was because of that. They were tired of all of us drinking beer.
Oh, they got rid of the steps
They
because
got
of
rid of the
that?
steps because they didn't want people sitting on it.
So this was that corner. What was on the other corner?
Well, I'm going to show you. The last big, well, come on over here to the corner. This was Cheap Louie's candy store. And this was the world famous Mimi's Pizzeria.
Ah.
After school, everybody came to Mimi's because school was right around the corner, Sacred Heart's around the corner. And Mimi's, again, back then it was a quarter for a pizza and a Coke. Imagine for a slice and a Coke, a quarter.
I remember.
And we all hung out on here with the jukebox. One night there was this young guy, John, who could barely speak English, worked for Mimi. And we're all sitting in the back, and somebody bought a Coke 4 hours ago, and we're still there playing the jukebox. John goes over, and he pulls the plug out of the jukebox, and he says, "I got 3 words for you. Time to go home." And everybody starts laughing. I had no idea what we're laughing at. Time to go home. This was Mother M's. Mother M's was the local pharmacy, but it was also where they made the egg creams and all the sodas and the best hamburgers in the world.
Yeah, the luncheonette counter.
Every day, every family had accounts in all of these places. When the kids went in, we got whatever we wanted, and somehow they settled up with my mother and my father, and whoever mother and father it was.
Yeah.
So this was the famous corner. This was the best corner. This is where me and all my friends hung out.
Right here?
Right here. The older guys, when I was like 15, 16, the older guys who were cool with all of us hung out right here. I can't do it anymore, but come here. There were guys, go down onto your hunches.
Me, Jesus.
There were guys who were like this with a can of beer and a cigarette for 8 hours. It didn't matter what time of day or night, this is where they were. So they had this spot. Yeah. Me and my guys and our friends and Barbara and all the girls, we had the pizza shop and Cheap Louis in the library stoop. Yeah. Over here, you know Bruno Kirby, the wonderful, wonderful actor? Bruno lived right up the street across from Sacred Heart. And Bruno and all his friends were over here. We got a lot of other guys, but we all came together with Off the Point. We played Off the Point there. Yeah. Bruno, nobody loved Off the Point like Bruno. And so we all...
Oh, you used that as the point?
That's how we used the point, right here. I'll show you.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
And by the way, that corner was a bar called Lynch's where our parents all hung out. So every single corner was filled with people.
Crazy.
It was crazy. The last big Puerto Rican fight was, I guess, 1965. My father, this guy Tommy Burke, a bunch of other people were in Lynch's. There was a fight outside with some Puerto Ricans. There was a big riot. My father got slashed all the way across the arm with a razor blade, and my friend Tommy Burke, across his whole back, they slashed him.
Wow.
And but that was the last major fight. But that was a bar called Lynch's right there.
And after that, you guys all bonded over weed
we all started playing ball. They were good ball players, the Puerto Ricans. Yep. We all thought we were good ball players, and a lot of my friends were really great. I was okay, but a lot of my friends were really good. And
well, you were a great pool player.
I was a great pool player. I admit that. This is true.
Where did you guys play?
At PAL. Yeah. I won the PAL City Championship.
You did?
I did, yeah. So,
how about Off the Point? Some guys, by the way, were just great at all the Spalding sports.
Yeah. So, you tell them how to play? You remember how to play?
Yeah, Off the Point. What do you mean? Just boom.
Nah, you see what he just did? Colin went like, and a lot of guys did that down, but a lot of other guys like Bruno would come in and go underneath, and so you'd get a higher arc if they went underneath somehow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Almost
everybody did this, but some guys would go down and go low.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
What were you hitting?
So here's what would happen. I'll show you how to play Off the Point. So, by the way, we had the whole point. If you hit the point and it doesn't hit the sidewalk and gets to here, and there's a guy here playing the field, if it hits right here, it's a single. If it hits there, but still there's another guy playing the field here, there's another guy here. If it comes out here and he doesn't catch it, it hits here, it's a double. The guys with the best hands would play out here. It went here, it's a triple. But here's why you needed the guys with the best hands, because if it hit the wall and the guy turned around, and no matter where it went, if he grabbed it before it hit the ground, it was an out. If he didn't grab it, it's a home run. So usually you had 2 fielders if you had enough guys.
Yep.
That's called Off the Point.
Yep.
Isn't that great? That's awesome. We spent our whole lives playing that and stickball.
And what about also, were you good at stickball?
I loved stickball. I was a great fielder. I was the worst hitter in the world.
I was a bad hitter too.
Yeah.
I hit you my swing. But we would play on a stoop like that, you play stoop ball. So if it's just by yourself or with one of the person,
100%.
And it's 20 points, 40 points.
100. I'll tell you why I was a great fielder. I don't know if my friends knew I did this, and I was a great fielder. I could catch. I would hang out in the hall. Let's say I'm in a hall, right?
Yeah.
Come home from school, made sure I had a Spalding. We're in a hall, maybe this wide. Come on. How are you, sir? Tired. So there's a wall here, there's a wall there. I would throw it off the wall or the ceiling, all my might, and then I would grab it in midair as it's coming down.
Just to practice, you mean?
Just to practice.
Oh.
And I'd grab it before, and if I missed one, I'd do 10 more. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I used to do that constantly, and I became a good fielder. Unfortunately, I didn't practice my hitting like that.
I know, me too. I hit you my swing. Nobody explained to me.
Yeah.
I fixed it about 3 years ago. I think it might be too late. I did. So here's the problem, Bob. Maybe I'll fix it for you right now in case you still have it. I wish you had it back. So I would hit like this. Somebody goes to me, some guy that plays baseball goes, no, you don't go like this. Move your hands this way.
I've been angry forever. I did the same thing, and nobody ever told me.
Yes, and you just twisted.
All you got to do is twist it. I learned how to do it when I was 30 playing softball in
Yes.
LA. And nobody ever told me.
Well, I can't
And my
believe
brother Johnny was a great baseball player. He never told me.
I don't think they knew.
Anyway, this is where Bruno, that guy Tommy Burke, who I told you got slashed along the back, he lives in this building.
I live right here.
Yeah, he had a twin brother. And Bruno Kirby, who we all loved with all our heart, lived right here. He had these windows right here, but you had to go in through here, down here.
Yeah.
And of course, this is Sacred Heart, who I just told you
Sacred
about.
Heart, here it is.
And I got married here. All my family got married here.
This was it, huh?
Yeah, every one of my children got baptized here. And recently, when we had my 50th anniversary, Father Dufell was the local priest. We flew him out to come and stay with us. He was actually back in New York. We drove him out. But when my kids got married in LA, Father Dufell, we flew him out to marry them.
You did? Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. It is a beautiful church.
And my friend Frankie Schumann, who was I was with him and he was with me. Yeah, I know. Frankie was a cop. And Frankie and I were, and this guy Charlie Horvath, Kevin Riley, the four of us were really close. And Frankie still has the apartment right there.
Wow.
After all these years. Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
then Barrett's funeral parlor where everybody got buried. Right up the street.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow, look at it. It's beautiful.
That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I miss all these times, but they're good times now. But it was unique. It was unique in all the world.
It really was unique.
I always thought if I was ever going to write my own biography or have someone do it, I would call it the center of the world, because this was really the center of the world.
Yeah.
Not that I'll ever do that. But
because here's this neighborhood, and right down there is Broadway, Restaurant Row, Times Square, and then 6th Avenue and all the publishing and all the...
It's everywhere.
Radio City is four blocks from here.
We controlled almost all of it, and we were insulated from all of it. It was the craziest thing in the world.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. Now, that's where the priests were over there, and there's the rectory.
That's the rectory.
But this is where the nuns lived.
Oh, nice.
But when we were growing up, it was all filled with trees, and it was dark, and it scared the hell out of all of us. Nobody wanted to go in. But we would all try to look in and see if we can catch the nuns undressing. Right. It was crazy.
Yeah. They used to say without their habits, too, remember? That was like a famous thing.
Exactly.
This is great.
This one.
Hey, by the way, it's a nice...
Oh, it's beautiful.
I like it.
And they were all great, you know. The priests and the nuns, they took care of us. I mean, listen, my only education was 1 through 8. Really, my only, and it was a tremendous education.
It paid off, You
know, I took it and I just went and read, but without that, I was dead. Without the Irish Christian brothers and the nuns, I was dead.
Yeah, you needed that. But meanwhile, even when you left high school, remember your teacher goes, I can't believe you're leaving. You're smart, and I know you're not going to stay.
It's the greatest story ever. Mr. Fuchs. I was in 9th grade, and I was halfway through, and I would never show up. When I did, I was late, like I said. And Mr. Fuchs came over to me and said to me, listen, I want to talk with you. He said, you're a really smart kid, and it breaks my heart that you're going to quit. And I said, I ain't going to quit. Well, I'm not going to quit. 2 months later, I quit.
He knew.
He knew.
You had too many opportunities.
24 years later, 1988, I had written a play that was produced off Broadway. There was a big picture of me in the New York Times. New York City playwright gets his first production. Opening night, I come out into the lobby, and standing there is Mr. Fuchs.
Crazy.
24 years later, how many students did he have?
Yeah.
And yet he showed up on my opening night. He gave me a hug, and he said, "I just want you to know you did good."
And you remembered him, right?
The minute I saw him, I said, "Oh my God, Mr. Fuchs, 24 years."
Wow.
But what kind of human being is that? To remember a student from 24, and he only knew me for a couple of months.
Right.
And he showed up opening night.
That's amazing.
Amazing. That's the kind of people that we had that tried to take care of us.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuchs, wherever you go, wherever you are, God bless you, Mr.
Can
Fuchs.
you, another story you might not want to tell is the Con Ed ditch. See, I know all these stories from you, but
listen, everybody knows that me and my friends too, maybe not as bad as me, but a lot worse.
Right.
You get drunk and you don't make it home sometimes.
Right.
So I got a hangover. I wake up, and I think, what the fuck? Why am I all wet, man? And I sit up and it's raining and I'm in a Con Edison ditch. I said, shit.
No.
I don't know how I felt.
That's not the one.
Which one are you talking about?
Your friend, it was.
Maybe. That's Willie. I don't want to. That's a whole other story. I mean, do we really want to get into those stories?
No.
I mean,
you'll be going all night.
Forever.
Yeah.
That was. Then there's the Lincoln Continental. I mean, there's so many stories.
Yeah.
Honest to God, if you really want to hear the stories I'm not telling, we'll do this another night, and I'll tell you tomorrow.
All right.
I have to get okays from a lot of people.
Yeah.
My mother was a switchboard operator.
Yeah.
And she worked right here.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story, a heartbreaking story. Listen, man, we all partied. We all worked hard.
Sure.
And we had our own problems, but there was this one family, I won't say the name, there were 4 brothers.
Right.
One girl. The mother was a bad drinker, the father left. But there was this one kid, the older brother, who got out. He was working down in Wall Street, suit, tie, every once in a while he'd show up and go, my God, and I don't want to say his name. God bless him, he's doing good. We all knew that family was in trouble.
Yeah.
About 8 years later, I'm back home from California. My dad was in there, had a heart attack. I come out, and it's a cold, rainy night. And if you look over here, there are the steam vents, where a lot of the guys who were homeless, we called them bums back then, there was no such thing as homeless, would sit on the steam vents. They must still be there. And I go walking by, and there's a guy with a cup, and he says, "How you doing, Bob?"
Oh.
And I looked down, and it was the one brother who got away. He didn't get away, he come back.
Oh, no.
Yeah. To this day, I could see my face, and I wanted
What year was that?
Well, my father had a heart attack, 77 maybe.
Oh, my God. Brutal.
Brutal. The one
And
guy,
St. Clair's was...
this is where my mother was a switchboard operator.
St. Clair's, yeah.
This is where, another story we'll tell at another time is when I got stabbed. This is where I wound up.
Yes.
Another
great story.
Almost didn't come out.
Hey, how you doing?
I didn't want to interrupt the filming.
Were we in the same grade or not? Were you above me?
You were above me.
No, you're trying to tell me I'm older than you? No.
Older than me.
Okay.
Great to see you.
Remember I was talking about the Irish Christian Brothers?
Yeah.
This is where they lived.
Oh, boy. Wow.
This was all Irish Christian Brothers, the whole thing.
How many were in here, you think?
Well, it was all Sacred Heart. There were 8 grades. There were 2 classes in 8 grades, so 16, and then,
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
They probably had a couple of these. Can you imagine?
No, I think it was only this. And then this became a theater.
What did this?
Yeah. This was the theater for the longest time.
This was?
Yeah, first it was a tenement.
What theater was it?
Look,
Yeah, it looks-
now it's still a theater.
It looks like a theater,
How do you
yeah.
like that?
What theater was it?
I can't remember the name of it, but I did a show here, one of the early shows that I did here.
And when do you feel like you clicked and you were like, I'm in love with this theater life. I'm not doing anything else? Because, what year do you think you were just like,
Well,
I'm addicted and I'm not leaving?
Well, I was addicted, but not to show business.
No? But to
Drunk.
theater?
Here's what happened. I would play around with it. I'd study. I'd do a play. I loved it. I loved it like crazy.
Wait, step
But I
over here
went
so
back
people
to-
look. Yeah.
I went back to gambling. I went back to drinking, staying out all night. 1974. I was out for 3 nights, bad hangover. My wife wouldn't let me in the door. She finally lets me in, and she says to me, "I'm done. Okay? If either you give up drinking, you give up gambling, and you go after this theater thing, full, well, we're done." So I said to her, all right, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to go to California and try to make a living as an actor. And Barbara, and like I said, Barbara doesn't think. Barbara said, fine, go out there, get a job, get an apartment, call me when you have both and we'll come out.
Wow.
We had a manner of that. I spent about 3 months out there. I got a job. I got a car license, and then I got an apartment. I called Barbara up, and her and Amanda came out, and we lived out there for a while.
It's crazy.
And at that point, I always knew how much I loved it.
Right.
But I didn't have the strength to give everything else up.
Right.
Especially the gambling and drinking. I loved it.
Yes.
And so Barbara, who is like, you know, it takes a half a second to know what's right and what's wrong. Me and you, we spend hours and days.
Sure.
Barbara knows right away.
Right.
And she knew going away was the right thing. It was the only hope we had for a marriage.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that,
and I
then,
guess for the career too, you need to focus.
And then I opened up the Actors Gym out there, and I started doing it all, and that's when I knew how much I loved it, and I was capable of doing it.
Yes.
So that's how it
And
happened.
also, what about the fact that when you went to LA, one of the most impressive things was you took a cab job. You never lived in the West Coast. You had that Thomas guide. That was the only way to get around.
Well, Colin, it was the funniest thing you ever saw. Number one, nobody drove it. I didn't drive in the city.
No,
nobody drove in the city. So I'm out in Los Angeles. I know how to drive, so I figured the best way to get a job is to get a hack license. So like the first day, while I'm still living in this motel, I apply for the hack job. I'm waiting. I'm there about 10 days. I'm living in this motel. It's like $14 or something, $11 a night, but I got no money left. I got one night left. So I called my father up. My father's a longshoreman. He's got nothing. He had loaned me $200 for a flight out. So I called him up. I said, Dad, I want to stick this out. I need some more money. He said, Bobby, I'll send you what I can. I don't know how much I got, but I'll get what I can. I'm sure he went and borrowed some money. And then I have one night left to live, right, in this hotel. So I said, fuck it. I guess I go find an apartment. So I go walking all over Hollywood. It was Sunset and La Brea where the motel was. And I see across from the Hollywood sign, furnished apartments, swimming pool, fully furnished. I said, wow, that's cool. So I go in. There's this old guy from Boston named Sam. Great guy, old guy. He was probably 50, 55. I was a kid, obviously. I see, he shows me the apartment. It's beautiful, 2-bedroom, fully furnished, terrace, pool. I said, I'll take it, but I got to tell you something. He says, what? I said, I got no money. I said, but I'm a young actor. I just applied for my hack job. I'm going to get the license soon. My father's going to send me some money. I'll pay you as soon as I can. That simple, that clear. Here's Sam. He goes, you're kidding, right? I said, no, I'm dead serious. I'll pay you as soon as I can. He says, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to hire you as a security guard. You can move in tonight.
Wow.
Free rent. About a week, and he lived up to it. I moved in that night. A week later, I got my hack license. I started driving a cab. I called Barbara, and she came out like the week later. And that was our first home, living in that free rent apartment, being a security guard and driving the cab.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, but it tells you the truth of the maxim that once you take the first step, once you begin, all the angels of the universe come to your aid. Right. Angels just show up when you take, and look at Sam. How could I expect meeting Sam and getting an apartment free? The only thing I knew was I needed somewhere place to live. So, and, you know, I just went looking for a place to live, and when I met Sam, I knew that was the right move.
And you spoke honestly to him, and that's what he appreciated.
Looked him in the eye. He loved the fact that I didn't bullshit him. Yeah. And I had my first apartment in LA.
Yeah, you were honest. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, next episode we do 9th Avenue.
And then, well, you started asking about taxi driving. So now I'm driving a taxi cab, and I swear to Christ, the first week and a half, I never got a tip because everybody was lost all the time. They get out pissed, angry, slamming the door. Yeah.
Because there was no way except the Thomas guide.
No, I couldn't read a Thomas guide. A Thomas guide, I had no idea what it was. Now I'm looking at a map. I didn't know nothing from a map. I'm saying maps, what the fuck?
And LA, people don't realize it seems logical once you're used to it. It's hard. It's so easy to get lost.
I never looked at a map in my life. And now I'm being asked to look at this Thomas guide. And here's what I got to do. You know, you're from the West Side, you're really smart. Eventually people get in and tell me where to go. I said, so what's your best way you like to go? And they would start telling me where to go.
Oh, that's funny. You started bartending too in Hollywood, right?
I started bartending. My first job was in a gay bar.
Yeah.
What happened was...
In West Hollywood, like the Rage, one of those?
Yeah, I forget the name of it. Tony Basil was the house band.
Oh my God, it's funny.
Yeah. And so about 2 o'clock every night, I think it was 2 back then, I'm sure of it, I'd start getting all of these fares from this place, go down to, what the hell was the name of it? Anyway, it was on La Brea between Melrose, I think. And anyway, I would go and pick up all these fares, you know, and I get huge tips, all the gay guys, big money. And you know, they all tried to make passes, and I'd show them my wedding ring, and they were all very respectful. Yeah. Nobody ever tried to push anything. They were all great.
Sure.
And then I find out the taxi business they're doing something, I'm gonna lose my job. So I go to the doorman outside, who I knew, you know, because I was picking people up, you know, fares. I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna lose my job. Anybody need a bartender here? He brings me in, meets the manager. Manager hires me on the spot. Comes after me for 2 weeks, you know, but I got a great job, and he was very respectful. But they all, the minute they saw my ring, I swear to Christ, not one of them ever tried to push it.
Yeah.
And they're all big tippers. About a month after that job, now I learn how to bartend. I can drive a cab and I can bartend. The owner, the guy who hired me, comes in, he says, listen, you're a great guy and stuff, but I got a new boyfriend, he's got your job. But now I know how to bartend, I know how to drive a taxi. I'm in. I never spent any time out of work. The minute I lost a job, I'd walk in and I'd say I'm a bartender. And here's what I'd do. I used to walk up Sunset Boulevard and I'd stop. Whenever I lost my job, the next day I'd walk up Sunset and I'd say hello to the manager in the middle of the day, and they'd say hello to me and I'd tell them I'm a bartender. I had a job 3 hours later.
I did the same thing on 2nd Avenue, 1st Avenue, and 3rd Avenue on the
Yeah.
Upper East Side. I'd walk up and just go to different places, give them my phone number, and have them with the bartender daytime. Yeah, dump that.
Yeah.
But the other,
I always ask for the manager.
If you got the manager or the owner, you were in.
And
I do the same strategy.
But people love that. People, you
Yeah.
know, if you don't sit on your ass, if you got a problem, take
Yeah.
the first step. That's called taking the first step.
Yeah.
You know,
You're right.
You know, you take the first step, and
Yeah.
all the angels of the universe show up. Anyway,
Anyway.
I love you, buddy.
I love you.